Everyone here is ready to go. It's been a hard year with nothing to show. From down this road, it's only on we go, on we go.
Name as many countries as you can that are in Asia.
Oh man, I don't know what technically constitutes as Asia.
If you can, okay.
I'm horrible at geography. China? Oh man, I don't know. That's the only one I can tell you 100% because geography is not my strong point.
Okay.
China? Asia? Thailand? The Philippines? I think that's all I know.
Okay, it's okay.
China,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
Is Taiwan a part of Asia? Taiwan, Korea, like North and South Korea.
If that's it, that's okay.
Yeah, I'm
okay.
gonna say that's it.
Okay.
China, Nepal, Mongolia, Taiwan, Sri Lanka's down there. Then we have Philippines, Japan is in Asia, kinda. It's like an island-y thing, you know.
What does an Asian look like?
I guess if I saw someone with like more like almond shaped eyes. I feel like squinty sounds so racist.
I typically think of like darker hair first off. I think like eyes usually smaller.
To you, what does an Asian look like?
Like every other human, but like slightly more tan than most white people.
Well, I would say, like, definitely a thinner build than most Americans. Typically darker hair, more thicker hair. Usually ranging from, like, I would say 5 feet tall to 5'9", the average. That's all I got.
What does an American look like to you?
I think American is like really broad, so I think like typically like if someone like were to draw an American, like you would think like brown or blonde hair, but like realistically like it could literally be like an American could be anyone because an American is like anyone a part of like that melted pot. But yeah, I think there's definitely like stereotypes of like people like drawing an American as like white or brown like hair and like white fair skin.
There really isn't a way to like describe an American because Americans are such like a wide range of people. Like you can go from being really light to really dark. Everyone has like different hair colors, different eye colors. There really isn't like a standard like what one person looks like.
Definitely publicized more, blonde and blue eyes, but most Americans nowadays are a range of everything, I feel. From me to really like paler skin and blonde hair. Then we go to red hair and green eyes. There's no typical American.
I don't feel like there's one specific group of people that capture like an American because we're technically supposed to just be like a melting pot of a bunch of different places.
What are stereotypes for Asians that you have heard or seen?
Stereotypes I've heard are a lot of people just kind of say like they're smart. Some people say like that they have like strict parents, I know. And like they kind of seem like it to be stereotyped as like a group of like really like hardworking people.
That they're all like, that they have like the yellow skin, I guess. That they're supposed to be like super smart. That they have like smaller eyes and they have like weirder, weirder accents, I guess.
Ooh, this one's gonna be funny, but like the Asian flush. That's a stereotypical thing, just to get red when consuming alcohol because there's an enzyme that's more common in Asian DNA that gives that reaction.
What would you do if you overheard a person using a racial slur?
Definitely say something. Definitely.
Correct them, call them out for it, because that's not right. Oh man, honestly, I probably wouldn't pick up on it unless it's like very
very obvious. Like where I'm from, we're literally all white or Mexican. So like I'm not like, I don't want to say educated because that sounds weird, but like I don't have a lot of knowledge, I guess, on the cultural type stuff, I guess.
I guess it depends on like the scenario. I would hope that like as a person I'd be like confident enough to stick up for that person, and like I'm confident enough to say that like if that person was like a friend, or like I have relatives that are Asian too, that like I would definitely stick up for them. But unfortunately I feel like if I was just in public and I didn't know like the people that were like in the situation, I don't know if I'd be confident enough to like, or be bold enough to like stick up for them.
When you were growing up, were your parents strict?
Well, I grew up in like a separated household, so my mom was strict, and then my dad didn't have as much authority. So, somewhat, yeah.
Were they strict about your grades?
Oh yeah. More so in like high school, they weren't as strict because they knew like whatever I put into it, it's not gonna matter what they said because that was my drive. But like elementary, middle school, like that was definitely very important to them.
When you were growing up, were your parents strict on grades?
Yeah, my mom's a teacher, so I wouldn't say like my parents are crazy because I've always been like a really hardworking student myself, and I've always like wanted good grades, so I never really had to experience or go through like being punished for having bad grades, just because if I got a bad grade, like which was very rare, I used to like punish myself or like just like ground myself or like cry myself to sleep because I was like so disappointed. But yeah, like my parents definitely do expect like a lot of like they expect A's and B's and really like push us to do well, and really made like college and education like an important factor that like and like something we should strive for.
I mean, they had expectations, but it was like if I could, as long as I was honestly trying my best, then they can't really do anything about that.
Like in what way?
Were they strict on grades?
Yes.
Were they strict on just life in general? Like,
Yes, they had to know where I was at all times, who I was with. If I was going somewhere, they had to know. If I wanted to be over at a friend's house, they'd call that friend's parents and make sure it's okay with them and things like that.
did they ever allow you to go over to sleepovers as a
Not often, no. And I'm pretty sure that's pretty like similar for most like Hispanic households. Like, oh, you're not coming over to our house? They can come over to our house. You're not going there. I went to a lot of sleepovers when I was a kid.
Did they ever allow you to go over for sleepovers, or were they held at your house?
Mostly my house, except for my next door neighbor. They'd let me sleep over, and there was rare occasions where I was able to like sleep further away, but not often.
I don't think I really asked to do like too much crazy things like in elementary and middle school. I think I asked for like a fair amount of like sleepovers, but I never asked for them like on a school night or anything. So like when I did, it was pretty reasonable, and it was always with like families that like my like parents were comfortable with. So like they always allowed me to do it unless I had some like prior responsibility to do like the following day, and they didn't think it was a good idea. And then when I got into high school, I like kind of realized like that my parents are very lenient when it comes to like having a sleepover, because I had a lot of parents, like friends that had parents that like would have like 9 or 10 p.m. curfews, and I thought that was like crazy because my parents never really like set a curfew for me. Like I always just naturally came home at like midnight or 1, and like as long as I texted like my parents and let them know where I was, like they were cool with it. But I don't know, I don't think my parents are like very strict, but I think that also just like goes along with me like setting up rules for myself.
Is it surprising to you that Asians are in Hollywood or are playing sports?
No.
Is it surprising to see Asians in Hollywood and sports?
No, I think that they are just as capable as anyone else.
I don't think it's surprising, no. I think with like any like minority group, I think like especially like if it's like a big name celebrity or a big name athlete, I think surprising is not the right word, but it's noticeable, I think.
Is it surprising to see Asians in Hollywood or sports?
It shouldn't be. It can be. I feel like if they do get roles or they do make these certain athletic teams, they're stereotyped a lot.
What is a model minority?
I don't exactly know. I'm not sure if my answer is going to be the right answer that you're looking for, but I think the model minority is that group of minorities that are considered the best ones among the entire group of minorities, the most achieving ones, the ones that seem to be like having life easier than the rest, the ones that seem to be securing more jobs, getting more education, and having it easier than the rest of the minority groups.
A minority that everyone else like looks up to, if in regards to what it is that they're doing like professionally, or like their morals or values or traditions. They're placed high up on this pedestal due to having this desired traits. They're just put into like a separate category because they are so highly looked upon.
Someone that's always in the spotlight, someone that gets a crowd around them all the time. That's what I would say.
A model minority is actually a demographic group, like a specific minority group, whether based on ethnicity, race, or religion, whose members are perceived to achieve a higher degree of socioeconomic success than the population average. So it would be like a certain group, like a certain minority group that is kind of like put on a pedestal when compared to other minority groups.
Yeah, of
In a
course.
way.
Yeah.
If you think of like different minority groups, like Black, Latinx, Asian, out of all those, do you think like any specific group has more privileges than the other group? Do you think Asians are like looked upon like when compared to other minority groups? Are they like more like put on a pedestal?
Yes, I would agree. I would agree with that in society's eye, how society puts the light on them is that way. I feel that any minority group needs some sort of aid at certain times. I feel that a lot in society, for African Americans, they aren't respected as equals as others. I feel that they are the ones that receive the most backlash, which is unfair, and that's very hurtful to them.
There is honestly a lineup of who does better than who. So I think there is one major group that is the model minority in the US. And I want to say it's the Asian group. The Asians, and they're never even noticed as a minority. Like, I don't feel like they're treated like other minorities are. You see, like the struggles of an Asian person are way less than the struggles of a Black person or the struggles of a Latina person or Hispanic person. You know? Because even like when you see it in institutions, for example, in our school. Let me tell you what I think. They're like the richest ones. Okay, they work so hard, so they're always excelling in the academics. Yeah, I think there is just that one, and I think it's the Asian group that is at the top of, or the model, that is the model minority group.
Definitely think there are more people, or like Asian people in the tech and science industry. That might just be because there are more people like from China and stuff compared to that of the United States, but they generally come here to seek better lifestyles, I guess. So like they try to go for some of the higher paying jobs to have like a nice lifestyle. So they go for like tech and science, I think.
You know, Asians are supposed to be like the smart people or the super good at math and science. I don't know, it's sort of a stereotype that I've sort of seen that's transferred over. Say if you were talking about Indian Americans, you know, a lot of people assume, oh, they're like good at, you know, tech and entrepreneuring and stuff. So I'm not totally sure, but I think there's definitely stereotypes that could be called token minorities.
Do you think they get treated the same as like black people or Latino people?
I wouldn't say as harshly as some Latino or the black community. Not necessarily like some people like think towards like Hispanic culture, like people like immigrating from Mexico and saying we're taking all their jobs, or they're taking all our jobs, or something like that. Not necessarily that way.
Well, wouldn't you say this is a good thing to live up to, like to be a model of something?
I would say yes and no. It's a yes because you kind of have life easier than your fellow minorities. If I was part of the model minority group, I think life would be a little bit easier than it is.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you have the wealthiest, the smartest, or most dedicated, that means that you have more access to resources, more access to employment. You're not likely to fall into prejudgment or prejudice. Like if there are two people who commit a crime here, one is black and one is Asian, prejudice will lead whoever is judging to actually assume that the black person is a criminal and the Asian one is not. So I feel it's an advantage to the model minority people. No part of the answer would be because you're still a minority, but then you're better placed than your fellow minority members. So you'll not probably take part a lot in fighting for minority rights as the more oppressed one.
Are there like consequences to your self-esteem?
You'll be like one of the outcasts. You're not living up to what your people seem to be having it easy. So yeah.
Well, the downside of being considered the model minority, I mean, that's a lot of pressure on that group of people. Even just take example, someone from this community, being placed on this pedestal, having the light on them, they feel restricted. Similar to how you're saying about the Asian minority, that they don't need help, that they're good at math, that they're super smart. I mean, I feel that everyone is smart. Everyone is smart. And for Asians, I mean, everyone's different. Everyone isn't the same, because if we were the same, that'd be very boring. And having that stereotype kind of pressures somebody to fit in that mold, which I wish in the future we can eliminate this mold and hopefully foresee and move forward and erase these things that people think of.
You might feel pressured based off of those standards and ideals that people have based off of people have about your minority group. And so examples that I can think of is that, like, being Indian, I feel like everyone expects us to be doctors and lawyers and engineers, and that or like huge business owners, and like it's hard when you have different aspirations and goals that don't typically follow with that minority's ideal like career path or something like that. And so like there could be detrimental mental health consequences because of not being able to fit that perspective of fit that mold for your minority group.
What can you do to counteract the effects of this stereotype?
To counteract the effects of this stereotype, I believe that as an individual that you should try to educate people and members of your minority, of your group, about the other ways that you can express yourself besides just those standards and ideals that everyone else has for you. Personally, for me, I'm a psychology major, and I know for a while that was something that was hard for, I think, my Indian side of my family to understand what it is that I want to do with that career, because I don't want to go into the medical field, and they first assumed that I would want to do something in the medical field with that psychology degree. And so just making sure that you establish a really good sense of communication and transparency in what your goals and your ideas are for kind of striving to be your own unique self, having your own aspirations that might not fit that typical model minority mold.
I try to wash away stereotypes from my mentality and treat everyone as equal. However, in society, it's hard for people to do that. It's hard for them because of how they are raised in their household and what they are told growing up, which then causes these stereotypes to start building in people's heads. Something that we could do is try to eliminate these stereotypes and these ways of thinking. Of course, that's gonna take a lot of work, but with constant just individuals informing people that it's not always like that, and maybe at a young age, that will for sure start to eliminate having certain minorities be so stressed. So starting to discuss with people at a younger age, or continuously informing people about everyone being different, everyone needing the same attention, I think that will alleviate the problem.
Okay.
Everyone here is ready to go. It's been a hot year, and I only know from down this low. It's only up we go, up we go.
I think that's all I got. She brought a globe. Wait, give me this.
Oh my God, no.
Yes. A blank globe.
No.
Here, wait, let me see it from a distance so I can't see the names.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, have you ever done an interview?
Not like this.
All right, well, yeah, just like
A model minority, like an example of a model minority.
Just like, what do you think one is? Do you know what the term means?
Okay, what the term means.
Are there like consequences to your self-esteem?
You just called me an Asian American.
I didn't call you an Asian American, did I?
Well, that is okay though. I understand. You're reading.